Welcome back. Yesterday we began considering the prayer of Jesus recorded in John 17 by simply reading his prayer. I encouraged you to spend some time meditating upon it and thinking about it and considering the example that Christ left us in it. Hopefully you've had time to do that. Today, in the next couple sessions, I would like us to consider several portions of Jesus' prayer recorded here in John 17, again to consider his example for us in prayer. Today I would like to look at the first five verses of John 17. Jesus spoke these words, lifted up his eyes to heaven, and said, Father, the hour has come. Glorify your Son, that your Son also may glorify you, as you have given him authority over all flesh, that he should give eternal life to as many as you have given him. And this is eternal life, that they may know you, the only true God, and Jesus Christ, whom you have sent. I have glorified you on the earth. I have finished the work which you have given me to do. And now, O Father, glorify me together with yourself, with the glory which I had with you before the world was. Again, just as a quick reminder, Jesus is both fully God and fully man. In this portion, we see this intimate fellowship that he had with the Father, recorded in such a way as to give us a glimpse, a slight glimpse, into the mystery of the Triune Godhead. How Jesus on the earth and the Father were one and yet separate. In Isaiah 42, verse 8, we read, I am Yahweh, that is my name. In my glory I will not give unto another, nor my praise to any carved images. Note what Yahweh declared here, as well as in many other passages, and that is that he would not share his glory with any other. And yet we just read from John 17 that Jesus prayed to the Father, O Father, glorify me together with yourself, with the glory which I had with you before the world was. Jesus proclaimed that he had glory with the Father, and that he asked the Father to glorify him in the same manner as the Father is glorified. To make that statement of even more impact, I'd like to read the context from which that Isaiah 42 passage came from, looking at verses 5 through 9. So back to Isaiah 42, beginning reading in verse 5, we read, Thus says God, Yahweh, who created the heavens and stretched them out, who spread forth the earth and that which comes from it, who gives breath to the people on it, and spirit to those who walk on it. I, Yahweh, have called you in righteousness, and will hold your hand. I will keep you and give you as a covenant to the people, and as a light to the Gentiles, to open blind eyes, to bring out prisoners from the prison, those who sit in darkness from the prison house. I am Yahweh, that is my name. In my glory I will not give to another, nor my praise to carved images. Behold, the former things have come to pass, and new things I will declare. Before they spring forth, I tell you of them. Yahweh, we're told, is the creator of the heavens and the earth. Jesus stated that he shared the glory of the Father before the world was. In John 1:1-3, we read that in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. All things, he was in the beginning with God. All things were made through him, and without him nothing was made that was made. Literally, the end of verse 1 is even more intensified, where it says, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. It literally says, the Word was with God, and God was the Word. It's a definition of who God is, not necessarily a definition of who the Word is. There's a statement of fact that the Word was in the beginning with God, but then the definition is that God was or is the Word. That this one who then created the heavens and the earth, who we read from Isaiah 42, is Yahweh, we're told specifically is the Word, who is God, that God is the Word. And then we're told in verse 14 of John chapter 1, that the Word became flesh and dwelt among us, and we beheld his glory, the glory of the only begotten of the Father, full of grace and truth. Jesus is the physical manifestation of Yahweh. He is truly and fully one with the Father, and yet distinctly separate. That's hard for our finite minds to comprehend. And yet it's true. Jesus is Yahweh on the earth. I would like to note, though, how Jesus' request, his first request in that prayer, was to the Father to glorify him, though. And I want to consider that as a something for us to ponder in our prayer life. A while back, we read about God's purpose for us to be conformed into the image of his Son from Romans chapter 8. And another time, we considered the fact that we are being transformed from glory to glory. And we looked at 2 Corinthians for that. That was a part of Jesus on the Mount of Transfiguration. In Romans 8 as well, we're told a pretty incredible promise right on the heels of the challenge to us be conformed to the image of Christ. I want to begin reading that in context again from verse 28, where we read in Romans 8:28 down through verse 30. And we know that all things work together for good to those who love God, to those who are the called according to his purpose. For whom he foreknew, he also predestined to be conformed to the image of his Son, that he might be the firstborn among many brethren. Moreover, whom he did predestine, these he also called. Whom he called, he also justified. And whom he justified, these he also glorified. Do you note the past tense in those descriptions? We have been predestined in salvation to be conformed to the image of Christ. That once you choose to believe, God's predestined purpose for you is to be conformed to Christ. But in that then, those who were predestined to be conformed to the image of Christ, these he called, and those who were called, those were justified, past tense. And those who were justified, he also glorified. Just as God has promised to call us, and he promised to justify us, he also promised to glorify us. All according to his grace. But again, it's past tense. It's something that in God's economy has already occurred. We look forward in being transformed from glory to glory to be exchanged and changed into the glory of Christ, to look more and more like him. And yet, from the vantage point of God, I already am. He already has glorified me. So quickly, to condense this, how does it affect my prayer? I ought to be praying for that then. Just as Jesus prayed that he might be glorified with the Father as he was before, that we ought to be praying for that transformational work to be done in our lives and in the lives of those other believers around us, that we might glorify the Father by continually being transformed into his image and likeness. Father, transform me into the image of Jesus in order that I might receive and reflect your glory. Sadly, we like to reflect our own glory too much. We need to change the way we think. Take some time today in prayer, meditating upon Jesus' deity, his glory, his greatness, his supremacy, asking the Father that you might be transformed from glory to glory, in order that you might bring him glory. That as we look toward the future glory, that it'll be being worked out in our lives today. Take time to pray and have a blessed day.